Hello everyone, my name is Noelle and welcome back to the channel. As many of you know, digital horror has seen a huge boost in popularity recently in the YouTube horror scene, with its fresh take on things and multiple subgenres. One of those subgenres being the Lost Flash games. This was first popularized early last year by Ghost Tundra and their Lacey game series, which is amazing by the way, so go check it out if you haven't. And because of that, there has been an overabundance of these Flash game videos coming out of varying qualities for better or worse. But today I'd like to highlight some of the ones that I think deserve more attention and are some of the better takes on the Flash game style of horror. With that being said, let's get right into it, shall we? For our first entry, we're going to be talking about Popular Boy Kissing Game. Very unique name, I know, which is one that I think goes a bit of a different route in its theme, which you'll see here in a second. I'll start with what happens in the video first and then its meaning second, so let's do that. The video opens up with a logo of the fictional game company, Bimby Fun Girl, before switching to the main menu screen. Once the player presses start, it shows a screen that talks about how Amy's senior crush started liking her back, and how she needs help to sneak kisses with him during class. We proceed to the gameplay section, where Amy and the senior kiss during class while trying not to get caught by their teacher. After this, we get another screen that talks about how the senior has asked Amy out to lunch for a date, but another girl who, quote-unquote, thinks she's his girlfriend, decided to come along with him, and now she needs help to get the senior's attention back to her again. This time during gameplay, you can visibly see Amy getting uncomfortable, and the senior now holding her by the neck or shoulder when kissing her. This only making Amy more uncomfortable, and during the last frame before finishing the level, you can see the other girl caught them kissing each other, and visibly looking confused. Maybe it's because she actually is his girlfriend and she's upset that he's cheating, or it's because she can tell that Amy and the senior's relationship is wrong. The next screen talks about how the senior invited Amy to a real senior party. Now she's going to get to hang out with the cool kids, and how she needs to prove to everyone there that she can kiss him better than any other girl. Before the screen switches to a loading screen, we can see Amy looking at the text and furrowing her eyebrows. Now when Amy and the senior kiss, everyone else at the party cheers, and the senior is grabbing her leg while Amy is looking even more uncomfortable than she was before. After a moment, Amy punches the senior and tells him to not to fucking touch her before the game glitches and the previous text flashes on the screen. The game cuts to a drawing of a door leading into a dark room, and Amy walking inside and closing the door after herself before the drawing switches to a real image of the door. It then cuts to the end screen that talks about how you made Amy's high school love the best it could possibly be, and how she hopes the senior will kiss her more. But before the video ends, the text goes away, leaving only one statement behind: I feel gross. There's a couple ways you could interpret the story as. Either the text is from Amy's point of view, and she's just really naive, or it's from the senior's point of view, and he's trying to convince himself that what he's doing to Amy is okay. I personally think the written text is from the senior's perspective, that he's trying to convince himself that Amy likes him too, and that Amy wants his attention, and that she wants to prove she can kiss better than any girl at the party. And the only time we get to actually hear from Amy is at the very end when she stands up for herself, and the only thing she can muster up is, I feel gross. Our second entry is one that some of you may have seen before, considering its recent popularity, called Leah's Secret Boyfriend. Just like last time, we'll start with the contents of the video and then the theme second. The video opens up to a loading screen with a picture of Leah with her boyfriend before text appears in front of it. The text talks about how Leah and the popular guy started dating. Now they want to keep it a secret from their curious classmates before asking the player to help Leah on her secret love adventure. Once the player presses play, it moves to a level select screen showing there's 3 levels, with the first one being to clean Leah's room, the second one is helping Leah bake, and the third one being to find Leah's boyfriend. We go into the first level, and it switches to a loading screen that talks about how Leah's friends are coming over for a group project, and that Leah needs to find and hide her things so her classmates don't get suspicious. The things the player needs to find is a photo of her boyfriend, a photo of them together, her boyfriend's hoodie, her diary, and a love letter. Once the player finds all the objects, some text shows up saying that Leah won't have to worry about her friends finding out about her relationship now. The player presses continue and moves on to the next level. In the loading screen, it talks about how it's Valentine's Day and how Leah wants to make something for her boyfriend, but that she needs help keeping an eye out for her roommate so she doesn't catch her baking. It shows Leah pretending to do the dishes before turning around and baking, while her roommate peeks in to check up on her every now and then. Leah finishes and thanks the player for helping her before the player clicks continue and moves on to the third level. On the loading screen, it talks about how Leah will give her cookies to her boyfriend and how she needs help to find her boyfriend without their classmates finding out, and that both of them agreed to meet up at a secret spot. The next bit of gameplay shows Leah's perspective as she walks through her school to find her boyfriend. There's a map in the corner to help guide her. When Leah finally reaches the spot, she finds her boyfriend, except he's with her roommate instead. The screen glitches out and it switches to showing Leah watching them by the door, before it zooms in and we get a Leah jump scare. Wow, that's a crazy name for that. After a moment, the game goes back to normal and now shows Leah giving the cookies to her boyfriend instead, with a text saying that Leah and her boyfriend can continue to enjoy their secret relationship without trouble, and then thanking the player. The screen switches to show a task list with all the tasks checked off. Find all the items, complete baking, complete task without getting caught, find Leah's boyfriend, and get rid of the imposter. And if you look closer, you can make out what appears to be a level 4 at the very bottom. After the player clicks on the link for more games, the game glitches out and we see Leah's face but with hyper-realistic textures. While the game is glitching, the get rid of the imposter task glitches out, before Leah looks back and forth at the player and the screen goes black before we go back to the main menu again. Now when the player presses play, there's the secret 4th level unlocked. Level... nothing. When the player clicks on it, the game glitches out and we can briefly see Leah's jump scare face overlaid for a moment. The game moves on to the loading screen for the 4th and final level. Now we're playing as Rhea, Leah's roommate. The text talks about how it's Valentine's Day and how Rhea wants to bake cookies with her roommate, but that her roommate Leah is missing and that she needs help finding her. We see the game from Rhea's point of view as she walks into Leah's room, now dark and empty. The screen pans down and we see one of the pictures we helped hide earlier, except this time, the picture's different. There's a different girl, where Leah used to be, her roommate Rhea, and there's a picture of Leah's face taped over the now crossed off picture of Rhea. We see Rhea, now unnerved from what she just found, before Leah appears in her jump scare form, and the video ends on one final screen that says, "You found Leah. They can bake cookies together now." The way I see it, the story is about a girl who took her crush, bordering on obsession, on the popular schoolboy a bit too far. I guess this could be like the yandere trope, except actually kinda good. The popular guy was never Leah's boyfriend and he was Rhea's boyfriend, which made Leah jealous. And it's implied by the ending that Leah might have hurt or taken the life of Rhea to try and replace her, or take the boyfriend. And what started out as a little fantasy about her crush spiraled into something far more disturbing than that. Next on the list is Daisy Adventure. This one is very high effort and has its own website to go along with it. We have lots to go over for this one, so let's get right into it. We begin with a picture of an old laptop with the game Daisy Adventure open on it. There's text on the bottom that mentions how the player found this game on an old laptop in their home. Laughing then begins to play with voices saying, "I will kill you." The screen then glitches out and we hear a woman scream. And an extremely uncanny looking picture of what appears to be Daisy shows up and banging on the screen plays, with sounds of someone crying in the background, before suddenly cutting to a loading screen, and then to the main menu. The player tries to press start, but the start button doesn't work, and after the player clicks on Daisy instead, the game glitches out even more, and Daisy's face distorts and we hear heavy breathing and what sounds like a child crying in the background. Once the player tries to press play a few more times, the screen switches to a drawing of Daisy just standing there, before glitching out and showing Daisy on a missing poster with a distorted, creepy face. The game finally starts, and the screen switches to Daisy talking about how she wants to go play with her new friends, and she needs to change her clothes to get ready. The player clicks start, and the game takes a moment before switching to actual gameplay. Daisy says she wants a simple costume to go to the town forest. Some red text flashes on the screen briefly that says, "They're not my friends, but I don't want to hurt them again." The player picks out an outfit and hairstyle for Daisy before some text flashes that says, "Please, I'm trapped." The player then changes her hair and her clothes back, which makes the game glitch out again. Daisy gets closer and looks at the player before her face distorts again, and we hear screaming and crying from who I assume to be Daisy. Some text flashes on screen twice that says, "Please help us. He will never stop," before Daisy zooms in a bit and then the game goes back to normal. Daisy says her outfit is perfect and to go on the adventure, when Daisy suddenly appears with a distorted face taking her place instead. We then see an image of a sign that says, "Welcome to Bella's Town," and a voice saying, "Do you remember this town?" before switching to a picture of a house, and the player mentioning how this looks like their house. The screen glitches and shows another sign that says Bella's Forest, and we hear laughing, and we see what appears to be the shadows of 3 people walking by while giggling. We hear a girl screaming, and then some of the other girls giggling before running away. A drawing of Daisy appears. Her face is distorted and she's covered in blood. The screen then glitches out and we see a wanted poster for the serial killer. It then cuts to what appears to be a crime scene. The screen glitches out again and shows the player's house. Then text-to-speech says, "Unleash your inner adventure with Daisy. I advise you to do it as soon as possible. I said, let's do it. I said, let's do it now." We then cut to a screen of what appears to be Daisy's legs, hanging and blood dripping. The text-to-speech says something else, but it's really hard to make out what it's saying. It sounds like, "Let me die." After a moment, another text-to-speech voice says, "Hello Daisy, my name is... Do you want to go with us to the Bella's Town Forest?" I think the meaning of this one is pretty simple, as in Daisy just wanted to make some friends, and they asked her if she wanted to go play in the forest with them. She agreed, but when the serial killer showed up and attacked Daisy, they all ran away and left her to die a slow and painful death. The really cool thing about Daisy Adventure is that the creator actually made a website for it. The website doesn't really seem to have any hidden stuff in it from what I've seen, but it does give us some info on the two girls Daisy tried to befriend, Rosie and Lola. From Lola's description, I wouldn't be surprised if she was a bully towards Daisy and took her to the forest to try and scare her, and had Rosie come along to help. But if you scroll down to the artwork section, you'll find some rather disturbing images. The second last image makes me believe that it wasn't just Daisy that died, that Rosie and Lola did too. Or maybe that Daisy survived or was taken instead. The image titled "Don't Leave" seems to hint that Daisy might have been the one who killed Rosie and Lola instead. I'm not too sure completely, but Daisy Adventure was pretty neat either way. Definitely check it out for yourself. Next up, we have Yumi's house. This is definitely one of the best Flash game videos by far because of how unique its gameplay and concept is in the genre. I can't wait to share this one because it's one of my personal favorites. Yumi's house presents itself as a gameplay video, akin to that of Lacey's Diner, with the perspective being of someone watching a tutorial video on how to get a creepy glitch in an old Flash game. The video opens up with a nostalgic blue screen with text talking about how the player found a creepy secret in a Flash game called Yumi's house. It switches to the main menu screen and we see the player complain about how their cursor doesn't show up in the game, making it difficult to navigate. After pressing play, we see Yumi talk about how she hasn't cleaned her house in a while, and how she's decided that it's finally time to clean it up. Continuing on to the level select screen, the player explains how there's 5 days you can play through, but that they'll only be showing you one. There's a cute detail of Yumi at the bottom of the screen telling the player to pick any room they want to clean. The player looks around the levels and sees a 6th room, with the preview of it just being a light pink square. When the player tries to play the 6th room, Yumi at the bottom tells him to clean other rooms first. The player gives in and decides to clean the living room first. After a short loading screen, we get to see Yumi's adorable looking living room, followed by some epic house cleaning gameplay. They finish cleaning up, Yumi thanks the player for their help, but there's something strange. The player mentioned it, but decides to explain it later instead. Weird. The player then explains how the gameplay for every day is the same, before moving on to day 2 so they can show us something. For whatever reason, on day 2, the 6th room's preview image changes from light pink to now fully black. The player is still not allowed to go in and decides to move on to day 3, where the 6th room option disappears completely. Next, the player decides to go back to day 1 so they can finally show the scary secret they found, since it only works on day 1. The screen cuts to the player now having finished the bedroom level, and now points out the strange thing they mentioned before. There's a shadow on the corner of the screen, like the 6th room is leaking out into the rest of the game, spreading like mold. The player explains that you can click on the shadow, and when you do, the game crashes, and we see the website they were playing on is called Cocoa Puff Games. Before opening up the game again, the player explains that they've activated the secret. When they open the screen again, we're greeted by Night 1. It explains that you have 1 minute and 3 flashes, and to use them wisely. When the player flashes their light, we see it's a bedroom. After 3 flashes and a minute had passed, the game crashed again. Nothing in the room changed from what I could tell. The game suddenly started playing like some white noise before crashing, which startled the player. When the player starts up the game again, we see that it's back to normal, but the player explains that there's still more to it, before showing that the mysterious 6th room is now playable. Once the player tries to click on the 6th level, various pop-ups show up asking the player if they really sure they want to clean this room, with each pop-up trying harder and harder to get the player to say no. We briefly see the text "Sister's Room" before the screen switches to an image of a door, and another pop-up pleading with the player to please just leave the room alone while we hear sobbing noises. The screen goes to black and we see the text "Mafkan Aku" in the corner, which according to Google Translate means "I'm sorry, sister." Once we're finally let inside the room, we see various objects we can interact with. A newspaper. This is Google translated, so might not be accurate. Teenager dies in a road accident. A 13-year-old teenager died after being hit by a lorry at about 5 p.m. That's the name, by the way. I can't pronounce that. Was pronounced dead at the scene. Amira is believed to be playing with her younger sister, Yumi, whatever that says, in the middle of the street without supervision. Exam papers. I was jealous that she always got their attention. She got everything and I got nothing. Teddy bear. Precious gift given from them. I threw him in the middle of the road. I didn't expect her to come running to get him. She's gone because of me. Broken mirror. She looked at me through the mirror, her eyes full of hatred and anger. I can't look at her anymore. She wants me gone. Goodbye, Mom. Dad, by the time you found this, I would already be gone. She took me with her. We see a distorted face that appears to be the sister who passed away, before the game goes back to its FNAF mode, now at night 2. Now when the player flashes the flashlight, we see that the TV is turned on, with hell written on it. After the second flash, nothing changes. But on the third flash, we see a girl's distorted face in the mirror, and the TV now saying, "Hello, sister," before the game crashes again. Yumi's house is a story about a sibling who accidentally played a hand in the death of their sister, and their sister is coming back for revenge. Throughout the video, there's this strange, ominous feeling that the 6th room, sister's room, is sort of haunting the rest of the game, causing bugs and glitches and even seeping into other parts of the game. And while the sibling tries to push back against the player, trying to avoid their sister's room, not wanting to be reminded of what happened, it's not enough, and the player pushed through anyway. The FNAF style section seems to be the sibling in their own room, too paranoid to sleep, thinking that their sister would come back for them, so they'd stay awake and use their flashlight to keep her away. But it didn't work, and the sibling knew it wouldn't work, so they left a note for their parents and accepted their fate. Alright, just 2 more to go. Our next video is Alan's Scene Party, which is the most recent one at the time of recording. This one is really well done, so I'm super excited to talk about it. It deserves so much more attention than it's got. I'd also like to mention that I did help with some music for this one, but just like the next one, I don't know anything about the story, so the video opens up to the main menu. The player presses start, and we cut to another screen with text talking about how Alan wants to make a party for him and his friends, and that he needs help with his outfit, the invitation letters, and the guests. The player then picks out a snazzy outfit for Alan to wear to his party. After that, Alan thanks the player and asks for help with the invitation letters. The player presses continue. There's a split second where the screen changes to inverted colors, with the text switched out to say, "Alan, why are you still missing him?" After a short loading screen, we get the instructions for the next minigame. The player needs to pick the correct words or else Alan might not want to send out the invitation. This party will be really funny, it will have fresh drinks, you will have to pay entrance. That doesn't sound right. Let's try again. After a rather disturbing scene, we hear someone's phone buzz and the screen shows Alan's message with, "Wow, XX death row XX." It's Alan's sister. She's talking about how she hasn't seen Alan in like 5 weeks and how she's worried. Then exclaims that she's coming to his house to get some answers. It cuts to a loading screen and we get a surprise minigame. We need to decorate the house and test to make sure everything is working as it should. We get some instructions, then move on to do the decorating. We blow up some balloons and check which ones are inflated. After that, we test the confetti. Next, we make sure the music is working correctly. And lastly, we check the light. Once everything is working fine and the house is ready for the party, all we need to do is invite some of Alan's friends over. We need to make sure only the right ones can come, of course. After a moment, Marquise comes online and starts to call Alan. He doesn't pick up. The screen fades to who appears to be Marquise. She's inside a car looking a bit worried. She speaks to a partner about how she's worried for Alan, and they agree to go to his house and check up on him. Marquise lets Alan know that she's going to be a bit late, but that she's on her way.
This is it, huh? I'm about to have the best party of my life. Yeah, the best party of my life. Why am I scared? This is gonna be the best party ever. Even if I'm all by myself. That's right, this party is for me and only for me. I don't need anyone else to have the best party in the world. Do you hear that? Do you hear that? Yeah, I'm about to have the best party without you!
Alan is having the best party in the world. Alan appears to be having some sort of identity crisis before the screen fades and we see Marquise and some other guy in a car. He tries to ask if Marquise is alright, but she shuts him down immediately. When they arrive at Alan's house, they realize that he's just having a party. Marquise seems relieved and turns to whom we know now is Hans, and tells him that they can go home now since everything is alright. But Hans seems to notice something. Hans starts to tear up and tells her just text Alan that they're coming back tomorrow. The video ends with text that reads, Hans, 17. He realized what happened inside Alan's house when he saw a shadow in the lights. He didn't say anything to Marquise until the next day because he knew she wouldn't be able to sleep. Marquise, 16. She never found out what happened to her brother until the next day when she went to his house. Alan, 17. He's having the best party ever. Thank you for helping him. Now I have a couple things I'd like to say about this video, and hopefully everyone watching can come up with their own theories too, because if there's one thing I know the creator of this video loves, it's speculation. So let's go over those things now. What happened the next day with Marquise when she realized that her brother died? Hans most likely told Marquise what he saw through the window the next day, and Marquise might have gone back to Ellen's house to check, and obviously be devastated. Is the thing in the house a monster or a person? I believe it might be more of a symbolic thing than a physical monster or person. It could represent Alan's inner thoughts since it shows up after Alan is done decorating. Maybe it was the reality of his situation coming back to him after the distraction of decorating was over. When Alan was having his crisis, was he really talking to himself? It seems like he was talking to himself, but it was definitely directed at someone. Maybe Marquise? And finally, why didn't Alan pick up the phone when Marquise called him? I can say that this is probably because he had already decided to end his life and didn't want to scare his sister. Or maybe he was afraid that he'd regret it if he spoke to her? That's what I think. And for our final entry in this video, we have Samara and Summer's big date. Now I did help make music for this one, but as for the story elements, I'm just as clueless as everyone else, so I figured why not cover it here too. This isn't going to be as in-depth as the other ones because it's very open up to interpretation, so I'm going to give my thoughts and leave it at that. When the video starts, we're greeted with our two main characters, Summer and Samara, who, as the title says, are preparing for their date. The gameplay begins and the objective is to dress up Summer in an outfit that she'll wear to the date. And once we're done with that, we get a text sequence. During this, Samara tells Summer that she'll be late and won't be able to make it in time. However, she will still show up when she can. After this, we're brought to a minigame screen where a text box reads, Summer has decided that she wants to walk to the park where her date will be. Help Summer walk by clicking anywhere on the screen. Make sure not to click too fast. Summer wants to walk, not run. The minigame then begins, with the player clicking to bring Summer to her destination, but the further she walks, there seems to be somebody following her. Eventually, the black circle catches up to her and the minigame ends, which is followed by a call for help screen that has failed 3 times. After this, text messages are shown of Samara trying to get in contact with Summer after she presumably has been murdered, and receives no reply. A game over screen that pops up with a box that reads, uh-oh, Samara never showed up, with the words, try again underneath the play button. A cutscene then plays, which I think would be better seen than described, so I'll play it here. There you are. What are you doing?
Laying?
In the mud?
Yup. Come, lay with me.
You want me to lay with you in the mud? Fine. What happened? Look, I'm sorry that I didn't show up. I was just... Never mind. I'm sorry. Are you still mad at me? Once again, we get a surprise minigame, with a text box that reads, look and see if you can spot what's different in every image. Click on the part that's different. Good luck. And it begins. This leads us to a sequence of Summer and Samara's childhood memories, where the player has to, of course, spot the differences in each of the pictures. When the minigame ends, 2 portraits of Summer and Samara are shown with clocks. The player lines up the clock hands, which opens up the door that continues the game. The next scene is a little Summer playing with a toy car, where we pick up the wristband that she wears on her arm to go through the door. The next room requires messing with the clock to progress, which then leads to Summer's casket. We then grab matches and light a candle that's laid on top of her. The last room is full of water with Samara crying on the floor, with text that reads, I'm sorry. The player then gives her the wristband that belonged to Summer, that she had always worn since she was a kid. The last scene then begins, with Samara at Summer's tombstone laying a flower on top of it, then turning around to see her beloved wife for the last time. My take on the meaning of this video is pretty simple actually. Samara lost someone that was extremely close to her, and this game is a representation of her coming to terms with it. Towards the end, when she's finally ready to accept that, she visits her grave and places a flower on top. I think this video does a great job at expressing that through flash game form, and is one of its biggest strengths as well. That was a much longer video than I expected it to be, but we're finally at the end. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and let me know what you think of the new editing style. I had a lot of fun with this one, and can't wait to make more of these longer styled videos in the future. I'm planning to cover Lacey's Pet Shop next, and that'll be the end of the Flash game stuff for now. We'll come back to it eventually, don't worry. Please go check out all the creators in this video. They will be linked in the description. Every single one of them deserves it, so go make sure to check them out. With all that out of the way though, thank you all for watching, and as always, have a good rest of your day, and see you later.